And we're back. This is Kotlin Conversations again, where we're having conversations with just a few of the wonderful speakers here. And I am very lucky to be joined by
Anshika.
Anshika, thank you so much for coming and having a chat. I know you haven't given your talk yet, so I always feel a little bit guilty taking a little bit of your conference time away.
Fine.
But well, tell us a little about yourself. Like, where are you based? What do you do?
I'm living in Norway right now, in Oslo, and I'm a software developer, and I work for a company called Posten Bring.
So tell me a little bit Posten Bring, because I think I've been in tech for a bit, and I feel like I usually work at the typical tech companies. Tell me a little bit about Posten Bring and where you work, because it's a little bit different than the average tech company, I suppose.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. So imagine an institution which predates your great-great-great-great-grandparent. I mean, we are almost 400 years old. We just celebrated our 378th birthday. So it's
amazing.
the Norwegian National Post. It's a logistics company.
Yeah.
And when you think of Posten Bring, you think of like legacy or tradition or history. I mean, they've been delivering letters, parcels, packages, even joy for like almost 400 years. So like you said, it's not a typical tech company, but I've been with them for almost a decade, and I think we do a lot of cool stuff at work.
It makes so much sense though, because I don't know why in my head, why when I think post office, you think kind of very analog, very traditional,
Yes.
but it seems like the logistics of post and parcel, it kind of makes sense that it would require tech to be able to keep up and keep that demand. And I think yours is so interesting. Your talk is so interesting because you're not just talking about using Kotlin at Posten Bring, but also KMP, which I feel like is still a bit cutting edge or very new for a lot of companies. Can you talk a little bit, just like, I mean, what you do and how did KMP come into the story? Yeah.
So when I started at Posten Bring, we had this huge monolith and image that you get in your head when you start at work. You do a Git clone, you go make friends, get coffee, and then it's still downloading the history of the universe. We had that. But over the years, because of feature development and microservices, we broke down that beast into like more manageable apps. But the caveat there was that all the business rules, which were centralized in that monolith, were fragmented then. And that led to a lot of pain in terms of coordinating amongst teams and also debugging. I think if I sum it up, the developers who had to work with that code base were just frustrated and unmotivated lot.
Yeah.
And what I really like about the company is that they believe in failing fast, and they give us, that's like the most, people get genuinely surprised when I talk about this, that we are so old. People think we would not even know about KMP.
Yeah.
But when we started dabbling in KMP like back in 2021, when it was not even production ready and like stable. And we did get some resistance from our tech leads, and for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But we were given the breathing space to like at least have a POC. And when we saw like some of the case studies and all the leading industry like Netflix or McDonald's, like things that we see every day using KMP in production.
Yeah.
It just gave us some confidence. Okay, we can at least start with the POC. And like we had primarily Java apps, and we had just started writing some of our apps in Kotlin. So then our assumption that because Kotlin is interoperable with Java, we won't have to reinvent the wheel. And we will not have to like rip out everything or learn everything from scratch. The learning curve shouldn't be that steep.
Right.
That was our assumption.
Yeah.
And that's why we started with it.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. Like that's what I tell in my talk as well. We're not done yet. So we started in 2021. It's been 4 years because it's a huge legacy application. We're dealing with, of course, the software hasn't been around for 400 years, but it's been around for like decades. It's been worked on by a lot of different developers. So what we were dealing with and are still dealing with is generational software.
Yeah.
And that adds to the complexity. So we're not done with the migration, but that's what, like just our motive to make the developers' life, better at work. That was our, at least in my head, that was our prime goal with starting with KMP, and it's worked out wonderfully well for us.
I think that's so wonderful to hear that. Again, being there's so many things there that I think would be red flags for a lot of us that have worked in, let's say, enterprise, large companies, big code base, very old, presumably lots of, legacy code, probably some tech debt, not making any applications. And then, but the idea that even with all of that, we'll call it baggage, that, it is very common. You could still have a culture of fail fast.
Yeah.
But I love that, because I think sometimes we're so attuned as like engineers to try to keep everything stable and consistent that we apply that to also our approach to engineering, not just the maintenance of production. Like it's not just like a safety at the end, but it's like a bit of a strength, just a bit of an approach all the way through. Whereas sometimes that makes you miss out on opportunities to really make life better. And you mentioned, like, before we started rolling, that it's not just improving lives for the engineers, but also for kind of like more broadly at the organization to have, KMP for, like you were saying, validation rules, like, is making life better for everyone?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the favorite part of my talk, actually, when I talk about this. So I list down all the good things that have come out of us doing this POC. And back in the day, like I'm team lead on the team, so I shield developers. So when product owners used to ask us that, hey, how is this rule implemented? It used to take us hours for me and other developers to like debug everything, only to realize, hey, this is implemented differently in different apps, the rule.
Yeah.
Now, after centralizing all our business rules in this KMP library and then using it for multiple platforms, now when our product owner asks us this question, it's no longer like a Trello card.
Yeah.
Our product owners are rock stars. Like, shout out to them. They have GitHub accounts. So now we just share that Kotlin file with them. They can read the code. Kotlin is easy to read. It's intuitive. And they can read the validation rule. Of course, not the complex ones, but like the simple ones.
Yeah.
And not only are they reading code, they're also creating pull requests. And I love the fact that our product owners are creating pull requests, because it just makes them it just makes them attuned to what we are dealing with. And we work together. Like, one aspect is this, and another, my favorite thing after doing this migration, or we're still doing it, has been, it was a lot of back and forth with business, because let's be real, nobody would have given us money or time to do this technical refactoring, because every time you go to business with, hey, we need to migrate our apps to use KMP, I think, and very rightly so, their fear was, everything would be stopped like for a year while they do this migration. So again, shout out to our product owners who, with the developers, came up with the plan to talk to business in a way they understood. And that was like money.
Yeah.
So what we did was, we had such a, like the enormity of the task here. So what we did was, we tried to break down into smaller tasks and tack on this technical refactoring on every business feature we did. That's why it has taken us 4 years, because we are doing it at a very small scale. Yeah. And like, to launch a new service, it used to take us months. And after doing this migration, it takes us days. And business sees that. Yeah. So now when we go to them, we need to do this technical refactoring, there is a trust now. Yeah. They see that we are not just saying something, like just pulling something out of thin air. And
I love this. There's like, and that's what I think is so wonderful, and can be very difficult to have a culture of that, is that, I think sometimes engineers, we just, either just from the way that, our, like, your past, your experience has been, or just maybe culture, is that you kind of stay in your lane to make a sense. And what I found is, like, some of my favorite engineers that I've worked with have a sense of what impact something has to the business and can communicate that. And again, as you said rightly, like, we need to make decisions not just on what's the best possible thing for engineering, but it has to like relate back to the business, because that's, everything has to work together. And so I love that. But also I love the idea that you have some of your, other people doing PRs, because I think that also builds that empathy. Yes. So that it's like, it goes both ways. Yeah. So that they can understand and be part of the process with you. And so they can say, oh yeah, this is easier. And I see just a little bit of what you do every day. And then likewise, I just think that makes that's so cool that you have that like relationship. And that seems to be, because I was going to ask you, so how do you make fail fast work at such a, like an older company? But it sounds like things like this with that communication. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're just blessed with really cool people coming, like working together at the same time. We just lucked out with people. Like, you need to have product owners who are open to change and open to learning new things. So we couldn't have done this if they weren't willing to like have GitHub accounts and learn this new shiny tool. They would have just said, oh, we don't care about this. That's your job. But no, they actually made effort to learn. And then, like you said, there's a shared empathy, there's shared trust, and we understand their world. Now we know that just telling business that, hey, we want to rewrite this from X to Y, they don't care. We need to tell them, how will this impact our users? How is this going to help, get them revenue or whatever makes their life easier.
I love that you mentioned too that, you know, and I guess we are at Kotlin Conf, so I feel like I need to bring it back to Kotlin. But that part of that benefit is not just like the sheer fact that, oh, with KMP you can do multiple targets, so it makes the development productivity better, but that it's readable and that even for people that aren't engineers, they can understand it. I love that. I love that so much. Was that intentional or was that just?
No, actually not. And another good thing that came out of this is that we use this like the common library now to create a JSON file, which then is used to create an HTML, like a developer site. So our developer site doesn't have all the business rules listed out, but like the main or the critical ones, which if a developer is integrating with our APIs should know about, because it's a very complex domain. So we try and simplify it for the technical people who are integrating with our APIs. And developer site was always out of sync. The business rule was like X here, and the API was validating completely something else. Now with this centralized structure, this is powering our dev site. So dev site is actually live documentation of this. So every time we change a rule in the KMP library, it just automatically is reflected in the dev site. So then that also has worked out. Like, we've seen a decline in the amount of customer cases or questions we used to get regarding this, like, hey, your documentation is outdated and your API is validating something else.
I love that. It also just goes to show you what a little bit of investment in tooling and just kind of that infrastructure to kind of feed into that makes it everything better. That's incredible. I love that.
And I mentioned this anecdote because you said if this was intentional. What I really loved about KMP was that we didn't plan this. It's just that when we started with this, we realized, hey, we can do this as well. Hey, something really amazing is coming out of adopting this new technology. So that's why what I told you before we started rolling, I've been going on and on around different Java conferences as well, talking about how this has really helped us in our use case.
I love that so much. And I just love that it wasn't intentional. There's just like so many side benefits apart from the on the paper technical things. Well, I'm just so excited. Like, I am definitely going to be watching your talk. I just love the whole story. If people wanted to find you on the internet, where can they do that?
They can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Anshika. So your talk is tomorrow?
Yes.
Tomorrow at Kotlin Conf.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're interested in KMP, if you're part of that struggle of getting KMP adopted at your organizations, I would definitely, I haven't seen it, so I'm thinking that it'll be a really good recommendation for all of your organizations and your teams to watch Anshika's talk. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It was an absolute delight. Thank you so much. And whatever's next on the live stream, hope you enjoy it.